All right, folks. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune. So it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game, and at Rec Poker Jim on Hellscape we call Twitter. And I have the best freaking job in the world talking poker with my friends here on the Strategy Forums edition of the podcast every Monday night while we steal each other's chips in the nightly home game. Now, I have to mention we're brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker Podcast. They're located less than an hour north of the Twin Cities in the beautiful state of Minnesota. You can find out more about them at runaces.com. And it's important that you do because most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members to take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. Now, you can sign up for free because everything starts with a free account at RecPoker, where all you need to join is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. But you can always get your first month of premium for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And if $5 is a lot of money, I fully get that. And everyone here wants to support people's ability to join us from all sorts of different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so you can get a month for free just by donating any amount to your local food bank and emailing us with proof of that donation. So if you want to get involved here at Rec Poker and join our premium membership, don't have $5 for your first month. That's no problem. Just make a donation of any amount to your local food bank and let us know. And we'd be happy to give you a free month to say thanks for supporting your local food bank. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays, but I am only one man. It takes a group, a gang, a crew to make all the magic happen around here. We call this group of wizards the RECing Crew. Of course we do, because we're all dorks. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up because you can meet a few of them right here tonight on the air.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm PetBat or PetBat33 on the social platforms. Fergie56 in the home game. I run a hand history review group for premium members on the second Wednesday of the month. I also oversee a travel group. So if you want to be one of the PFFs, which stands for Poker Friends Forever, come on in. Everyone can join the travel group and let's travel the world together and play poker. Come on.
Man, that does sound really good. That sounds really good. All right, who's next on the RECing Crew?
My name is Rob Gardner. I go by Rob Gardner Live on all my socials, and I get to be a part of the marketing team here at Rec Poker and do a lot of the content.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, I host a book study for our premium members. Come and join.
I'm Taylor Maas. You can find me on Twitter at Taylor_Maas or as Gopherboy TJM in the Rec Poker home game, which we stream live on Twitch every Wednesday evening, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern.
So that's just a little taster's choice of the smorgasbord of options available to you every month as part of our RECing Crew, as part of our premium membership here at Rec Poker. Another perk of being a premium member is being able to come and join the forums edition of the podcast. We've got longtime member and good friend of mine, Stuart Carriage, joining us tonight. Stewie, why don't you introduce yourselves to Rec Poker Nation and tell them where they can get a hold of you?
I'm Stuart Carriage, and find me on the home games at Stewie13.
Well, thanks for joining us, Stewie. Yeah, everywhere. That's right. And Stu is the hero. In case you're wondering about a hand history from Stu, this is one of my favorite things about him. Be like, all right, hero opens from middle position with 9 of hearts, 8 of hearts. That's me. I'm the hero. This is my favorite thing. I love this guy. All right. So thanks for joining us, listeners. Thanks for joining us, RECing Crew members and premium members. On the forums edition of the podcast, we try and focus more on strategy. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a hand that our own Taylor Maas played in a bracelet event in the World Series of Poker this summer. You can find some of the details from Taylor's journey on our vlog. And for oldies like me, that's like a video blog. It's like, I don't know, it's like a video. Taylor, how would you describe exactly what the vlog is for our older listeners?
I don't know if there's words to describe it, but just go to YouTube, check it out. We do a Vegas vlog. This was our second year doing it. It's about five 6 episodes long of Jim and I hanging out in Vegas, playing poker tournaments, chatting about whatever is on our mind. It's a ton of fun. It's worth
It
the
is.
watch. They're not
It
too
is.
long, about 10 minutes each. So yeah, this hand I actually talked about on the vlog, but I figured probably worth dissecting it a little bit more. We went over it really quick on the vlog. But yeah, I thought we would chat about that here today.
All right, bring it on. And you didn't bring any Skittles tonight, did you, for a visual element like on the vlog? We're gonna have to let our
I
imagination
think
do the
this
heavy
was
lifting.
one of the poker hand histories that I did without the Skittles.
Okay.
So to keep it true, I won't do it with Skittles tonight either.
All right. All right, take us through it, Taylor Maas.
All right. So we're playing the PokerNews Deep Stack. It's a $600 bracelet event. There's going to be thousands of people that enter this, and we're in the first 2 levels. So I think this is somewhat of an interesting hand just for the early dynamics at play here. Plus just the style of play that goes on in these early levels with, a lot of calls, multi-way types of hands. And this one does not disappoint with that. But we're at the 100, 200, 200 level. So it's just the second level of the day. And we also have a good friend of the podcast, Dara O'Kearney, at the table.
Wrecking Crew member.
Wrecking Crew member. Although he doesn't play a huge part in this hand, he does lead out the action. He's the first one. He opens early position to 500. We have a middle position call, a hijack call. We, the hero, are in the cutoff with the King of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts. So we've got open to 500, 2 other calls in front of us. What are we thinking here?
So you're holding King of Hearts. Sorry, what are the suits again?
Hero has King of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts.
And you're the hero, right? Just so we're perfectly clear.
am the hero in
He's
this.
the
Okay,
hero.
yes.
All right, great. Perfect. Excellent. All right, Kim, what did you have there?
I fold here. I fold here multi-way.
Really? Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Early in the tournament, I don't need to be getting into this with a mediocre hand offsuit. I would play it if it was suited, but I'm not interested in squeezing. I might think about it if I was in one of the blinds, but there's still players to act after me, and I'm just not. I'm not going to play this hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
All right, there's the episode.
Yeah, so Taylor makes a tight fold, and we move on. Yeah, this hand has a lot of qualities that I like as a light 3-bet, as a bluff 3-bet here. I'm not sure it should always be a bluff 3-bet, but sorry, Kim, you wanted to jump back in.
Yeah, no, I love that when we're going to be people are going to be worrying about stacks getting in.
Right.
But we're not worried about that here. So when you can make a 3-bet and you're like putting their stack at risk, then I love it. But here, when it's early in the tournament, it's just, for me, it's not good enough.
Yeah, you'd rather wait for a better spot to come along. These structures are pretty generous, so you don't kind of have to take a close spot like this.
Right.
Yeah. I think for me, just the threshold's a little further on the other side. I see that dead money in the pot. I see a chance to 3-bet and maybe take the pot right here, or maybe just get heads up. I'm going to be in position. I like King Queen offsuit and like King Jack offsuit hands like this, where if you get 4-bet, you can comfortably fold. It's an easy hand to play in that scenario. If they fold, that's great. And if they call, typically they're actually calling with the kind of hand where you might even be ahead. It'll be a worse king or a worse queen. And so you can actually kind of get into a position where you're 3-betting for value against some of the calling range there. Yeah, Kim, please, yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I would love this if it was different, as in cutoff and button call, and now we're in the small blind. Or hijack, cutoff, call, and now we're on the button. So I don't like it versus the under the gun and call and a call. Yeah. So
good. And I like it when we disagree. We're having this like, soft play.
That's why I thought it would be a good hand to
thing.
discuss, because there's definitely different dynamics to like talk about here. Like, I don't know if any of the decisions are that straightforward.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I like that we get to kind of examine the different assumptions and the different ways that we might approach some of these hands when we don't just work in lockstep all the way along. So more disagreeing, please, group. Okay. Rob Gardner, you're unmuted. Did you have some thoughts on sort of the generally in this spot?
So I think all of the options are on the table. Generally, the more people that flat, the wider our squeezing range gets. But I believe we're 300 big blinds deep at this point, right? It was 60K starting.
It was a 30K starting.
Oh, it was 30K starting. So 150 big blinds deep?
150 deep, roughly.
Yeah. So that's close to me. I think at 150, I would slightly lean squeeze. The closer we get to 100, the more I'd be willing to squeeze. But like if we were like 250, then I'd much rather be suited. I think that you can downsize this 3-bet a little bit. Because even if, like, let's say we downsize this and we just like everybody calls, like we're still in a spot where we can flop trips, we can flop the nuts, we can flop a lot of very strong equity, some 2 pairs where, our opponents aren't really going to have any 2 pairs, and we can just proceed very, very, very carefully post flop. So I don't hate flatting either. I know King Queen's not the best hand to play post flop, but we're deep in a tournament that has really, really good structure. So just kind of seeing a flop and approaching it very cautiously and passively, I think is a fine option as well. So yeah, it's on the cusp for me. I think at like 100, I'm squeezing the vast majority of the time. At 200, I'm flatting or folding, and at 150, I'm kind of like, I'm going to kind of look at the table and kind of get a read on how much fold equity I have before I make my decision.
Nice. All right, so Taylor, it seems like every option is on the table. Was it a debate in your mind on how to proceed?
It was a bit. Ultimately, I went for a 3-bet here. I just felt like a lot of players in the early stages in the MP and hijack, when they call there, have a lot of hands that we're doing pretty well against and we can get folds from. So I thought a squeeze here was going to be relatively decent. So I went to 2,300. So the original open was to 500. I went to 2,300. And then so we were in the cutoff. We had the button behind call, which surprised me. We'll end up needing to talk about the button, but just for everyone's reference now, the button has been the most active player at the table. I don't know if people know much about aggression factors. I don't know exactly how they're all calculated, but I know this guy's aggression factor was like 10 plus. Literally anytime it was checked to him, he's betting. He's going for actions to put money in the pot. He's a very aggressive player, but I think doing so in very inopportune times. So we get the button that's calling behind us. It goes back to Dara in early position. Dara calls, middle position calls, hijack calls. So we are 5 ways to a flop here after 3-betting.
Not exactly the outcome we were looking for.
Just what we were looking for,
I
right?
rest my case on 3-betting in these deep stacks.
Hey, there's a lot of chips in the middle here.
Right. Okay. Now, Taylor, do you think, just to sidetrack us a little, do you think if you had made it, marginally larger, that would have made any difference? Like, of course, like we like getting calls from hands that we're ahead of course, but part of why we're 3-betting is to thin the field here a little bit. Once that first player calls, the other players are getting such good odds. It makes me feel like they were probably coming along.
To be honest, playing it out kind of in my head, I did not expect anyone behind me to flat. That threw me off. And I think that changed the dynamics of it, because I think if I 3-bet and it gets to Dara, I think Dara is going to play pretty straightforward, at least what I would expect an opponent to play in this spot. And then if Dara folded, I would have expected middle position and hijack to also fold at a relatively high frequency. But when the player behind me called, I think that prices in Dara a lot more to also call. And then likewise for the other two positions. So I think we kind of got unlucky that the button called behind us, if you will. Because otherwise I think it narrows the field a lot more. But just given how this person has been playing, and if I'm seeing them as kind of like an overly aggressive guy that I want to play hands with, others could be seeing that and kind of taking that to their decision making as well.
When you have the under the gun player just flatting here after the button plots the 3-bet and not 4-betting, what sort of a range do you put that player on?
Ace queen,
because I'm
ace
not
jack,
worried about
ace
everybody
10,
else.
King stuff suited, queen stuff suited, decent-ish pocket pairs. I guess probably almost all pocket pairs, but probably not the like top ends of them. So I think it's a range that we don't do terrible against. And I think that's probably true for the other ranges as well. Some people don't like to get too crazy with ace king. So I'm not too worried about ace king. I'm not worried about aces. Kings and queens don't feel that likely. I am a bit worried about ace queen because I think people will flat that quite a bit. But otherwise, I think we're doing pretty well. And that will hold true if you understand those ranges and what I talked about. And when we go to this flop 5 ways and the flop comes out king, 7, deuce, rainbow, that feels pretty darn good for me and my king, queen. It's the king of clubs, the 7 of hearts, and the deuce of spades.
And so we think that our opponent would have re-raised with ace king a portion of the time, if not all the time.
I think decently likely to. I'm not going to completely discount it, but I'm going to discount it a bit.
How many are to the flop? Sorry, Taylor. How many people do we have?
5. Yeah, just 5 ways.
Just
so check
5.
your solvers for 5 way hands.
We do have both sets in play.
Yeah,
like
sevens.
This is true. Right? Sevens and deuces can be in play. We block kings, and kings doesn't feel that likely. So,
and we don't have 2 pairs in play.
No, I don't.
Should not have 2 pairs in play. No real straight draws out there. No real flush draws out there. So it feels very safe to me.
Yep. I agree.
So it checks to us. And now what do we do with a 5-way hand where I feel pretty confident about my hand? Are we going for a value bet? And what are we thinking about for sizing?
Now, I'll see if anyone else unmutes to jump in. I'm always kind of torn on spots like this where we're not like when there's so few draws available, then players are going to be calling continuation bets with more value heavy ranges like made hand, which is hard to have a made hand on this board too.
And they're also going to be folding more.
Right. Yes. So I'm always torn in spots like this, whether I should make a small bet and try and keep my range uncapped and get called by sevens, 7x hands, even like pocket 6s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, something like that. Worse kings. Or if we should just check and take a street off, give up the initiative, but not, make a 1-pair hand into a 3-street hand if we don't have to. Rob, you unmuted there with something.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, why are we c-betting? What do we want to happen here? Basically, there's not a lot out there that's going to be calling us. Like you say, maybe an odd 7, a 9-7, an 8-7 type hand that might, a suited hand that just happened to be there with a 7, maybe an ace-7 suited, that type of hand. But there's not a lot of hands that you're going to get value from. So really what your c-bet to me would be doing would be removing, removing some of the hands that could suck out on you, like ace highs. So hopefully you'd be getting some
and
ace
other
highs
pocket
to
pairs
fold.
That could hit.
And yes, pairs. And lower pocket pairs. So
I like a c-bet.
Yeah, I like a C bet. I'm just trying to understand why we're doing it and what we expect to happen.
Mhm.
Let's just see bet and take down the pot. I'm happy with that.
Which is easier said than done in a 5-way pot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think I would assume opponents have some King X suited types of hands that might be in on this. There may be some like King 7 suited that's two pair that we have to be worried about, but I think like King Jack, King 10, King 9 possibly are all hands that we're going to get value from. I think there's some Ace 7 suiteds that will exist out there that will probably call us here as well. And I think if we check, we worry about, is someone going to hit a pocket pair that makes a set on the turn? What happens if it comes in an ace on the turn? So you are denying a bit of equity, kind of like Kim talked about. So I feel like a bet here is...
If we don't bet, there's no way to narrow ranges on our opponents.
Right.
Like,
and what are we
bet,
expecting to then get paid from on a turn? Like all of a sudden someone's going to hit a 10 and just be like, oh, cool, my ace 10's great.
Right.
Like,
so when we make a small bet, when we make a small bet, we're going to get called by, a lot of hands that we're already beating right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that are supposed to call anyway, like hands that have backdoor flush draws, backdoor straight draws, pairs, over pairs, a pair on the board,
Yeah, Taylor, you've talked before about kind of the subtle difference between betting for value and betting to deny equity. It feels like this is a value bet that we're making here. We're actually hoping to get called by a second best hand. But do you want to sort of weigh in on the difference there?
I mean, it's nuanced to like talk about it, but it's like you can bet because you're trying to get value out of hands when your opponent has a worse hand than yours that will call. But then you can also bet for the instances of when your opponent has a worse hand, still has some equity versus you, and you can take that equity completely away from them. So you can get value from each of those instances. Sometimes you do it a little bit more for one of those reasons than the other.
Cool. Yeah, well said.
But so yeah, we bet 3,500 here. I believe there's about 12,000, 11,000, something like that in the middle. This is like 30%, but like 5 ways. It's I don't know how to do my sizing in 5-way pots, so it felt roughly right to me. We get the button to call. This is the aggressive player behind us. Everyone else folds. So now we go to heads up, a little bit more standard now for everyone. But we're out of position, and we have a very aggressive person behind us. So heads up now on the turn. The turn comes the 9 of hearts. So again, the board is King of clubs, 7 of hearts, Deuce of spades, 9 of hearts. Heads up to us. We act first. Now what are we thinking?
I personally always check here. Out of position. I'm now in realization, not capitalization, and I'm going to just check here. Check call. Or check raise, depending.
I agree. And I think you give the opportunity to an aggressive player like that to make a stab as soon as you check to it, which is a good thing. You could play it either way. After he stabs, you could either call or you could do a check raise and try to get more money into the pot with a better hand, or get him to fold some of his equity that he might have with, say, a suited ace of hearts of some sort. So,
yeah, I think that's kind of the key point in my mind, Rob, is like this person behind us. Like I said, I haven't seen him check when check to. I've seen him call bets. Like I have not seen him check when check to. And
I think this makes a perfect bluff catcher.
That's exactly my thought here. So I check, and the button. So what did we say? It was about 12,000, 11,000 previously. We put in another 18,000 in the pot or so. With 21 behind in our stack, they bet 12,000. Very hefty bet.
And this is the spot where we're like, this is what we asked for. Like we intentionally put ourselves in this position of check calling against an aggressive player. And like, it would be nicer if it was a smaller bet, but like, this is why we checked. So I think we just have to, there's no point in raising and we can't fold. So I feel like this is just a call. We just don't get to feel comfortable all the time.
When
Can
we
we
see
call?
bet the flop, but when we see bet the flop and they call, and there's still another 3 players stacked after them, again, that have checked, right? But they still have to act. What range are we putting them on?
Right.
So that's, if you can find enough bluffs in that range, that's great. Like, but you need to like sit there and put them on something, a range.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm assuming they're not just a maniac doing this with like, just because they have the button and just because you checked.
What if I tell you I think they might, in fact, be that level of maniac? I've only played with them for 2 levels, and I've tried to like lead into it, but it's like I think they are way overly aggressive.
Well, then if you just have that read and you're still in the rebuy period easily, and you just ship your chips in here on the turn, because you're never folding to their small bet on the river.
How many bullets
Ever.
do you have?
You can rebuy once in this.
But is that a part of your strategy?
Yes.
Are you firing
Yeah.
again? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how you can call for more than half of your stack to see a river card. At the same time, if you have the read that he is a total maniac and is doing this with absolute air, then you could call and then just jam on any safe flop or river. I don't know. To me, I have a hard time calling that and leaving such a small percentage of the pot behind you. How can, it just doesn't make, there's no, you can't put pressure on them. You can't it's all going in no matter what you do. So you might as well put it in now while you know you're ahead.
So that strikes me as one of those sort of like those general rules that we learn about poker, whereas like you can't, you shouldn't put so much in the pot if you only have so much back. Like you shouldn't invest so much of your stack. You shouldn't invest so much of a pot when you only have so little back. But I think there are counter examples for that. Like I think there are times when you take the opposite approach. And for me, those times are when I already know I'm putting all my chips in the middle and I want to do it against this other player's bluff range. So if I shove here, I'm letting them off the hook with their bluffs. I know I'm going to call on the river already. If I'm in that mindset, then
Okay.
I can take a check call line here and a check call line on the river, because I think it gets you the most chips against their bluff range, because that's the range that we're kind of targeting here. Kim,
Yeah. I think that we can get carried away with the labels we put on players when we've only been playing with them for 1.5 levels.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just in all of these hands, and they're raising a lot and they're calling a lot. This is a 3-bet pot. How many times have you actually seen this person call a 3-bet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to like actually think of that in the context of this hand. So, I mean, I find that you can get carried away when you're playing live poker, like to put this label on somebody, and now you're giving them what you think you want them to have, which is any 2 cards. Because that's what it sounds like you want them to have here, any 2 cards. And I mean, maybe they could, but I think like just after 1.5 levels, I don't think that we can actually have that read on how many times this person has called a 3-bet.
That's a good point. Sample size isn't there. But Taylor, you're the one at the table making the reads.
Right.
Could they
and
could
this
they
is the
be
tough
like
spot, right?
could they be
Like we're
value
all in
betting?
these spots.
Could they be value betting pocket tens? Like, could they have decided that when you check, you don't have a king, and now he's got effectively top pair, and he doesn't want to see jacks, queens, or aces? Like,
I mean, potentially, like sometimes you see how a person acts and you just generally put them on they're less experienced and they're going to be making some mistakes and you just don't know exactly what those mistakes are. Like, are they going to be overvaluing weak kings here? Are they going to be overvaluing smaller pairs because, like you said, maybe they think you don't have a king, so now they're trying to push you out of the pot because now you check to them that shows weakness. Like it's tough to know exactly how some of the weaker players will show up here. But the one thing that I can say is I have seen them bet big and I have seen them do this when checked to in certain spots. So it is a line that they have taken enough for me to at least have that read and to see something about. But like Kim said, how often has that occurred? Probably not all that often. How many times has it been in a 3-bet pot? Probably none, honestly. So it's one of these spots where it's like, we're put to the test early. We have to make a decision now.
I mean, do you think this is the type of player that would do this with just king jack? Because you've checked them here on the river, from what you've seen.
Honestly, I would say yes. I would say they do it with king 10. I say they would do it with even king 7 and king 9, which beats us.
right.
So like there's that. There's probably other things that they have within their range. It's tough for me to like narrow it down and be like, there's no way they would do this with a7. It's just like they might not. It's just kind of what do you
I mean, they
feel
don't have
on
that
this?
many king sevens and king nines. I mean, if
They
they
shouldn't.
we're assuming
They
they
really
only
shouldn't.
call that
Correct,
are
right?
suited
Yeah.
suited
Yeah,
varieties,
yeah.
right? So
two combos maybe, yeah.
yeah.
No easy
This is,
answers.
Classic
this is
spot,
why I
right?
fold pre-flop.
Yeah, so you're never in
Yeah, there's something to be said about avoiding difficult spots just because you can find better spots later.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in Kim's canoe when it comes to pre-flop. I think we definitely fold that pre-flop.
But it's 500 chips in a tournament where you have to accumulate 37 million chips to win the tournament. So call and fold anything but the nuts. Like,
Right.
give yourself the chance to flop Jack 10-9 or King or, a full house or something. You can always play it ridiculously tight. How big did we go on the flop percent of pot?
We went
Like a quarter
3,500.
pot.
That was probably like 30% pot or so.
How do we feel about 10% on the pot on the flop?
Yeah, I was thinking about
I-
sizing down. Yeah.
I love
Such
that. I mean, it's just like it's tough in a multi-way spot. Like I can do those types of tricky things like heads up, and I just don't know how I should be thinking about that in a 5-way pot to downsize from my 3-bet to 2,300 to I don't know 1,500 or whatever. It's
I think
just
it's
like
easier in a multi-way pot to downsize that small.
We get to go smaller in multi-way pots anyway, because even just one person folding is nice it's a nice equity boost for us. But you're playing with players who, like, if you were to node lock that into a solver, right? The response would be to raise at a much higher frequency, especially the later position. And the players just aren't going to do that, right? So the most likely scenario when you go 10% is you're going to get 2 or 3 callers. And then the turn comes and you go 10% again and you get 2 or 3 callers. And then you get to check through and just hope that the button doesn't, freak out, right? Or maybe the button folds before you get to the river. It kind of allows you to pot control a little bit more effectively. And at least gives you a spot where the pot on the turn is a bit more manageable. So I don't hate that as an alternative. I look, like, when you get to this turn, it just comes down to what Jim's talking about. Does he have enough bluffs that he'll have follow through on rivers and jamming is going to fold out those bluffs? Or are all of his bluffs hands that have like decent equity and we're better getting it in so we don't have to make some sick fold when like a third heart hits the river. And that's just going to be like your best read in that spot, right? Like you have to decide like where he is on that side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is there an old adage that says don't go broke with top pair?
If it is, I have not listened to that.
But that's
speaking of general rules of poker,
when
right?
you've got 150 big blinds to start, you shouldn't be going broke with top pair. I don't think.
It's kind of an extreme situation because of how dry the board is.
Yeah.
And our read on the opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Like online, I flick this in, but live, I've run into ace king in these spots so many darn times when they're never supposed to have ace king in a multi-way pot where they should be four betting.
That is true. I mean,
I'd be leery.
The cold call ace king is probably a little bit more prevalent here than any other position. And we have not really chatted about that, but it's a very aggressive player and they didn't four bet ace king. So anyways, should we bring it home?
Let's do it, boss.
All right. So they put in 12,000. We had 21 behind. I just stick it in for the remainder. They call instantly and I go, oh man, I need a lot of help, don't I? And I look over at his hand after he flips it and he's got the 5 deuce of hearts. So again, the board is king 7, deuce 9, 2 hearts on the board. I look at his hand. I look at the board. I look at his hand again. I look at the board and there's the king of hearts now sitting there on the river, giving him a flush and knocking us out.
And it had to be the king of hearts for max pain so that we hit the
max pain, right? I didn't go broke with top pair. I went broke with trips.
There you go. There, see, Rob Washington doesn't that feel better going broke with trips instead of going broke with top pair? Yeah.
No, you went broke with top pair. You got the money.
Where's the flush draw, man?
But if he wins that hand, he goes on to win the whole tournament. Like this is
this is true. Rob knows. Yeah, no.
Oh, that's so gross, Taylor. That's so gross.
That was a weird hand. I mean, it's a bad beat story, but I think it is very interesting to chat about like what leads up to that bad beat. Because a very big multi-way pot early on in the tournament, it happens. Trying to decide what to do versus 5 people. Important to like talk about those different things and the different dynamics, and then also versus a player that I've pegged as not very good, inexperienced, something that I want to play hands against, and I've seen them make mistakes. How do I then try and capitalize on those mistakes? So, although it didn't end the right way, I got my chips in with a whole lot of equity, and I have to feel good about that.
You never said not very good and not very experienced. You only said very aggressive.
So I did
This makes a
later
big
on.
difference.
Yeah, no, I mentioned it, I think, when we were talking about like the turn decision. I was talking about how I didn't think they were that experienced. I didn't say it in my first onset, so I apologize about that. But it was someone that I thought was making mistakes, and again, it's only been a level and a half. Maybe it's towards the end of 2 levels. So like, how many times have I actually seen them play hands and like been able to make solid reads on those? Not a ton, but trying to act off the information that I had.
Well, I'd say you made some great reads, man, and you definitely elicited the actions that you wanted from this player, right? You got them to call on the flop. You manipulated them into betting on the turn by checking to them as an aggressive player, which we scripted, and then they did. And there's 3 other suits that could have come on the river.
It's true.
That stinks.
Yeah.
Well played.
So to round this out, then I wanted Dara to sign my book, so I brought my book out to Vegas. He was very happy to sign my book, but I left the table immediately after that hand because that just didn't feel good. But not the next break, but the break after I did come back. Dara was still at the same table. Got him to sign the book. Asked him where my friend went. And believe it or not, he had busted already.
No way.
Big shocker. So,
wow.
had the right read that this guy was ready to blast off, playing way too aggressive in certain spots. But
Is that when you gave Dara crap for not having a rec poker patch on?
that occurred like immediately before this hand. Like no lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go check out the vlog, you can see me give Dara a little bit of grief about him not having a rec poker patch when he had 4 other patches on his chest.
Very appropriate. That's very appropriate. He should feel bad. Well, that's an interesting spot. And you do encounter all sorts of different players and player types and, odd lines especially at the World Series of Poker with such a mix of players and player types down there. I saw someone unmuting in our panel here. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this particular spot? Kim, jump in.
No, it's just funny that this hand is just playing out exactly the same time as the hand was playing out we talked about last week that I played in the Super Seniors when the woman was trying to get into the Poker News tournament.
Oh, right. Yes, exactly. I was thinking about that. That's right.
So
That's right.
Go back and listen to last week's. And,
yeah.
It's another hit on the river.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes they just get there.
Yeah, sometimes. Exactly. Nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. But great conversation. And thank you, Taylor, for bringing that hand in. I always like hearing hands where we had, some disagreement and maybe how to play. I do like the idea of that down bet on the flop, dry boards plus multi-way, those both kind of point us towards down betting. And I think with our exact hand, we can also, capture some value there at some smaller sizes. Yeah, Kim, did you want to?
Yeah, no, I think that also that's really relevant because when we bet what we did, we sort of have an awkward stack size now on the turn. So we either have to bet bigger so we can now shove the turn, or we bet smaller so that we can go along with some smaller sizing.
Yep. Sizing, the great frontier, the last frontier. Yeah. Especially in these situations that we don't find ourselves in very often, multi-way, deep stacked in a tournament like this. Like, I think people do play differently in bracelet events than they do in their their local daily or their local weekly at the casino. So it's always a little tougher to put people on ranges and that kind of thing. All right. Well, without any further ado, then I want to thank Ginger and Stuart, some premium members, for hanging out and lending us their support here in the Zoom chat. I want to thank Taylor Maas for putting a great hand together for us. Kim Kilroy, Rob Gardner, Rob Washam, thanks for your contributions on the RecPoker Crew. And you, the listeners at home, we couldn't do it without you. So thanks for tuning in for another week of the RecPoker Podcast. We'll see you soon, everybody.